I was staring at a $20.2 million variance report when Sophia Caldwell from HR knocked on my office door with that fake smile she'd perfected over 15 years of corporate damage control. The numbers didn't add up, and now I was about to find out why. My name's Walt Hudson, I'm 47, and I've been the senior financial controller here at Pinnacle Manufacturing for 8 years. Before that, I survived the 2008 bloodbath that took half our accounting department at my previous company. I learned to keep my head down, document everything twice, and trust the numbers more than the people who sign the paychecks. The thing about being 47 in corporate America is that you're old enough to have seen every trick in the book, but young enough that people still expect you to play along with the new ones. When you've been through a financial crisis that wiped out careers and retirement funds, you develop a healthy skepticism about innovative approaches to money management. Walt, we need to discuss some concerns about your collaboration with our newer team members, Sophia said, settling into the chair across from my desk like she owned the place. Her assistant hovered in the doorway, clutching a folder thick enough to choke a horse. I clicked my pen 3 times and straightened the stack of invoices on my desk. Old habits. When things get tense, I organize. The clicking helps me think. Which team members are we talking about? Victoria Sterling has expressed some frustration with the marketing budget approvals. She feels you're being unnecessarily restrictive about promotional expenses. Victoria Sterling, the CEO's 26-year-old daughter who'd been promoted to VP Marketing after exactly 18 months with the company. Most of that time had been spent in strategic consulting roles that seemed to involve a lot of lunch meetings and very few measurable results. I'd watched her career trajectory with the kind of professional curiosity you develop when you've seen enough nepotism to fill a textbook. The kid wasn't stupid, I'll give her that. She had an MBA from Northwestern and could talk the talk about customer acquisition costs and lifetime value optimization. But there's a difference between knowing the vocabulary and understanding the fundamentals. In my experience, people who inherit their positions tend to confuse confidence with competence. I follow the same approval process I've used for 8 years, I said, keeping my voice level. Same process that kept us compliant through 3 audits and helped us weather 2 industry downturns. Sophia's smile tightened just enough to let me know we were moving from friendly conversation to corporate discipline. Times change, Walt. Our business model is evolving. Victoria brings fresh perspectives on customer engagement strategies and market positioning analytics. Fresh perspectives. That's what they called it. When someone with an MBA and daddy's connections wanted to spend money without proper documentation. I'd seen this movie before, back when companies were throwing cash at anything with a .com address. The vocabulary changes, but the fundamentals don't. The promotional expenses she's submitting don't have proper vendor documentation, I explained, pulling out the file I'd been reviewing. Greystone Marketing Solutions has been billing us $47,000 monthly for digital engagement strategies, but I can't find any deliverables or performance metrics. No contracts, no scope of work, no measurable outcomes. The silence stretched long enough for me to hear the air conditioning kick on. Sophia was calculating something behind her corporate smile, probably trying to figure out how much I actually knew. That's exactly the kind of old-school thinking that's holding us back, she finally replied. Modern marketing isn't about traditional metrics. It's about brand presence and market positioning. You can't always quantify brand awareness in simple financial terms. I clicked my pen again. Brand presence. Market positioning, fancy words for spending money without accountability. The variance report on my desk showed that Tori's marketing initiatives had somehow managed to lose our biggest client, a manufacturing contract worth $3.2 million annually. But instead of investigating the failure, management wanted to double down on the spending. I understand marketing has evolved, I said carefully, but accounting principles haven't. I still need to see invoices with specific deliverables before I can approve payments over $5,000. It's not just company policy, it's SOX compliance. Sarbanes-Oxley wasn't just a suggestion. It was federal law, passed after Enron and WorldCom destroyed thousands of careers and retirement funds. People my age remembered when accountants went to prison for looking the other way. Apparently people Victoria's age thought those were just stories from the old days. Sophia's expression shifted from fake friendly to corporate serious. The mask was coming off. Walt, I'm going to be direct with you. There's a perception that you're resistant to change. Some people are questioning whether you're the right fit for our evolving culture. There it was, the threat wrapped in corporate speak. Resistant to change, not the right fit. I'd heard those exact phrases in 2008 right before they handed out pink slips to anyone over 45. The words hit different when you've got a son finishing his junior year at state and an ex-wife who still calls when she's worried about your job security. I'm resistant to fraud, I said calmly, meeting her eyes. If that makes me a poor cultural fit, I can live with that. The meeting ended with Sophia suggesting I take some time to reconsider my priorities and think about what kind of team player I wanted to be. Her assistant left behind a folder containing a performance improvement plan that somehow covered goals I'd never seen before. Professional development objectives that hadn't existed during my last review suddenly became critical deficiencies. Back in my office, I sat staring at the new expectations they dreamed up. Embrace innovative financial frameworks. Demonstrate flexibility in vendor relationship management. Show willingness to adapt traditional methodologies. Corporate buzzwords designed to make compliance sound like obstruction. I pulled out the Greystone marketing file and started digging deeper. The company was registered in Delaware 6 months ago. The billing address matched an apartment complex on the east side of town, about 15 minutes from where Victoria used to live before her promotion bump. The invoices were professionally formatted but vague about actual services provided. Strategic digital outreach, brand amplification initiatives, targeted engagement campaigns. The more I looked at it, the clearer the pattern became. I cross-referenced the payment dates with our client loss timeline. Greystone's biggest billing months coincided perfectly with the failed campaign that cost us the manufacturing contract. Either this was the world's most expensive failure, or someone was using fake vendor charges to hide the costs of trying to fix their mistakes. My desk phone rang. Internal call from Charles Sterling, the CEO himself. In 8 years, he'd called me directly maybe 3 times, usually when something was seriously wrong. Walt, I understand you had a productive conversation with Sophia today. Productive, right? We discussed some documentation issues with vendor payments. I appreciate your attention to detail. It's one of the reasons we value your experience here, but I want to make sure you understand the bigger picture. Victoria is implementing some innovative strategies that might not fit traditional frameworks. Traditional frameworks? Like having invoices that actually described what you were buying. Like knowing who you were paying and what you were getting for your money. Apparently, those were old-fashioned concepts. I'm happy to work with Victoria, I said carefully, choosing each word like I was defusing a bomb. I just need proper documentation for any payments over $5,000. It's company policy. It's also federal law. Policy can be flexible when it serves the greater good. Victoria's initiatives are critical to our growth strategy. We're in a competitive market, and sometimes we need to move fast. I need you to be supportive. The line went quiet for a moment. Charles Sterling was a smart businessman who'd built this company from nothing over 25 years. He understood profit margins and risk management better than most, but he was also a father protecting his daughter's career. I understood that motivation. My own son was finishing college, and I'd probably move mountains to help him succeed, but I wouldn't ask someone else to break the law. I'll review everything carefully, I said, which was as much of a commitment as I was willing to make. I hope you will. We're all on the same team here, Walt. After hanging up, I felt that familiar tightness in my chest that I remembered from 2008. The feeling you get when you realize the ground might not be as solid as you thought. When my son calls from college, worried about tuition money, or when my ex-wife mentions seeing my company in the business section, I get that same sensation. Like standing on ice that's starting to crack. That afternoon, I made copies of all the Greystone files and took them home. If this was heading where I thought it was heading, I wanted my own documentation. The 2008 layoffs had taught me to keep personal copies of anything that might matter later. Employment lawyers call it contemporaneous documentation. I call it covering your ass. At home in my kitchen, I spread the invoices across my table and started building a timeline. The pattern became obvious pretty quickly. Every major Greystone payment was followed by a corresponding adjustment in our marketing results. It looked like Victoria was using the fake vendor to hide the costs of her failed campaigns. The manufacturing client we'd lost had complained specifically about unprofessional communication and misrepresentation of capabilities in their exit interview. I pulled up the notes from that meeting. The timeline showed this happened right after Greystone's largest payment for something called crisis communication management. Victoria had promised results she couldn't deliver, then used fake vendor charges to cover the costs of trying to fix it. My phone buzzed with a text from my son. Dad, hope everything's okay at work. Mom said you sounded stressed when she called. Even 3 years after the divorce, Sarah still worried about me. She'd lived through 2008 with me, watched me scramble to find work when half the accounting profession disappeared overnight. She knew what job insecurity did to people our age. We might not be married anymore, but she understood how much I needed this position to stay stable until retirement. I texted back that everything was fine, no point worrying him during finals week. But I started thinking about my emergency fund, my 401k balance, how long I could survive another job search at 47. The math was different now than it had been in my 30s. Fewer companies willing to take risks on experienced hires. More young managers who saw gray hair as a liability. The next morning, Sophia was waiting in my office again. She had that same fake smile, but her assistant was carrying a different folder. Thicker, more official looking. Walt, I have some difficult news. There's been a formal complaint filed against you regarding professional conduct. She handed me an HR document that looked like it had been drafted by lawyers. The complaints were signed by Victoria Sterling and dated yesterday. Insubordination, resistance to modernization, creating a hostile environment for innovative team members, failure to support strategic initiatives. I read through the charges carefully. They were professionally written and completely fabricated. The specific incidents mentioned were twisted versions of legitimate business discussions. My request for vendor documentation had become aggressive questioning of approved strategies. My adherence to financial controls was now inflexibility and micromanagement. This is retribution for asking for proper documentation, I said, keeping my voice steady even though my pulse was climbing. This is about patterns of behavior that multiple people have observed over several months. We take workplace culture very seriously here at Pinnacle. The document recommended immediate suspension pending investigation. It also suggested I might want to consider a voluntary resignation with a positive reference letter. Clean break, no hard feelings. Just sign here and walk away quietly. I read through the charges one more time, noting the dates and specific allegations. Someone had put serious time into building this case. The incidents they described were real conversations, but twisted beyond recognition. A discussion about proper invoice procedures had become intimidation of junior staff. My explanation of SOX compliance requirements was now creating unreasonable barriers to business operations. I'd like to respond to these allegations in writing, I said. Of course, you'll have 48 hours to provide your perspective. In the meantime, we'll need you to surrender your access cards and laptop. The suspension was effective immediately. I cleaned out my desk while half the office pretended not to watch. 23 years of corporate experience taught you how to recognize the signs. People suddenly became very interested in their computer screens. Conversations stopped when you walked by. The junior analyst I'd been mentoring, Janet Murphy, walked past my desk twice before finally stopping. "Is there anything I can help you carry?" she asked quietly. "Keep following the procedures we discussed," I told her, loading files into a cardboard box. "Don't let anyone pressure you to skip steps, no matter what they tell you about modernization or innovation." She nodded like she understood there was more to that advice than office supplies. "Mr. Hudson," she said, glancing around to make sure no one was listening. "That watch list thing I mentioned last week, your name showed up on it 3 days before any of this started." My hand stopped moving. A watch list. Before any formal complaint existed, that meant they'd been planning this for days, maybe weeks. Building a case while pretending everything was normal. "Thank you for telling me," I said. At home, I spread the HR documents across my kitchen table, next to the Greystone files. The timeline was damning. Victoria's fake vendor had been operating for 8 months, billing consistently every month except for one gap in January, when our external auditors were on site. The charges restarted the week after the auditors left. More importantly, I found the pattern I'd been looking for. Every time I'd requested additional documentation for a Greystone payment, Victoria had complained to HR about my lack of cooperation. The complaints escalated each time I pushed back, culminating in the formal charges that had just landed on my desk. I started building my defense. 8 years of clean performance reviews, 3 successful external audits, where my department had received commendations. A track record of catching actual fraud attempts before they became problems. Letters from vendors thanking me for helping them understand our documentation requirements. But I needed more than evidence. I needed credibility. I needed someone with authority to actually look at what I'd found instead of just trying to make the problem disappear. I called Pat Williams, the lawyer who'd handled my divorce 3 years ago. She'd seen enough corporate retaliation cases to recognize the warning signs. Walt, this smells like they're building a case to fire you for cause. That way they avoid severance payments and unemployment benefits. Can they do that? If they can make the charges stick, but if you can prove they're retaliating for legitimate whistleblowing, you've got options under federal law. She explained the process for filing a complaint with the State Board of Accountancy. Financial controllers who discovered fraud were protected under whistleblower statutes, but I had to follow specific procedures to maintain that protection. Documentation was critical. Timeline was everything. The key is proving you were acting in good faith to protect the company's interests, not just being difficult about procedures. I spent the next 48 hours building the most important document of my career. 12 pages detailing every suspicious transaction, every request for documentation, every conversation with management. I included the Greystone timeline, the client loss correlation, and a detailed analysis of the accounting irregularities. But more importantly, I filed a formal fraud complaint with the State Board before responding to HR. Once that was submitted, the company couldn't retaliate against me without facing federal charges. Pat had been very clear about that timing. File the whistleblower complaint first, she'd said, then respond to their HR charges. Once you're protected under federal law, they have to be very careful about how they treat you. Monday morning, I was back in the conference room where this had all started. Sophia was there with Charles Sterling and a company lawyer I'd never seen before. The dynamic had shifted. The easy dismissal they'd planned was now a legal minefield. Walt, we've reviewed your response to the workplace conduct allegations. Sophia began, but her voice lacked the confidence it had carried a week ago. And we've reviewed your fraud complaint with the State Board, the lawyer added quickly. We take these kinds of accusations very seriously. Charles looked like he'd aged 5 years over the weekend. The situation had moved beyond protecting his daughter's career. Now they were looking at potential federal investigation, criminal charges, and the kind of publicity that destroyed companies. Perhaps there's been some miscommunication, Charles said carefully. Maybe we can find a way to resolve this that works for everyone. The lawyer slid a severance agreement across the table. 6 months' salary, continued health benefits for a year, and a positive reference letter in exchange for dropping all complaints and signing a non-disclosure agreement. We'd also be willing to discuss an enhanced package, the lawyer suggested when I didn't immediately respond. Perhaps 8 months' salary and a consulting arrangement that could provide additional income. I looked at the numbers. It was more money than I'd see in unemployment benefits, and it would give me time to find another position without the stress of immediate financial pressure. My son's tuition was due in the fall. My mortgage wasn't going to pay itself. At 47, I couldn't afford to be unemployed for long. But I also couldn't afford to let them destroy my reputation to protect their scam. I'll need time to review this with my counsel, I said finally. Of course, take all the time you need, but I already knew what my answer would be. They were offering me money to go away quietly while Victoria continued running fake vendor schemes. The next financial controller might not catch it, or might be too scared to speak up when they did, and there would be a next time. There always was. I appreciate the offer, I said, sliding the papers back across the table, but I think I'll let the State Board investigation proceed. Charles's face went pale. The lawyer started scribbling notes like he was calculating billable hours. Sophia looked like someone had just told her the building was on fire. Walt, I hope you understand the implications of that decision, Charles said quietly. I understand that financial fraud is a felony, I replied, and that covering it up makes you an accomplice under federal law. The room got very quiet, except for the lawyer's pen scratching across his legal pad. The State Board investigation moved faster than anyone expected. They had subpoena power and access to records I'd never seen. Within 2 weeks, they'd confirmed the Greystone fraud and identified 2 other fake vendors that Victoria had been using, Dataflow Analytics and Strategic Solutions Group. Same pattern, same apartment complex addresses, same vague service descriptions. The total amount was close to $680,000 over 8 months. Not massive by Fortune 500 standards, but serious felony territory nonetheless. More importantly, they found emails between Victoria and Charles discussing how to handle my interference with their vendor relationships. Walt's being difficult about the documentation again, Victoria had written, maybe Sophia can have a conversation with him about being more supportive of departmental initiatives. Charles's response was equally damning, handle it quietly. We can't afford to have him asking questions about these arrangements. The emails were dated 3 weeks before my first meeting with Sophia. They'd been planning to neutralize me long before I became a formal problem. Charles Sterling announced his retirement the same week the board released their preliminary findings. Victoria was quietly transferred to a strategic advisory role at their subsidiary company in Phoenix. Sophia left to pursue new opportunities in organizational development, the corporate equivalent of witness protection. The new interim CEO called me personally to discuss my future with the company. "Walt, I want to be very clear about something. What happened to you was wrong. The board of directors has reviewed the entire situation and we're prepared to make this right." They offered me promotion to Director of Financial Controls with a 25% salary increase and direct reporting to the board of directors. No more middle management interference. No more pressure to look the other way. "We need someone who can't be pressured to compromise," he said. "Someone with the backbone to say no when no needs to be said." I accepted the position, but I also started something else. Word travels fast in accounting circles, and apparently there was demand for financial controllers who actually controlled the finances. I began consulting with other companies on fraud prevention systems. Weekend work, mostly helping smaller businesses build the kind of controls that prevent problems before they start. 6 months later, I got a call from Janet Murphy, the junior analyst I'd mentored. She'd been promoted to senior financial analyst and was calling to thank me for the advice about following procedures. "Mr. Hudson, I wanted you to know that the new director implemented all the controls you'd recommended. We haven't had a single documentation issue since the changes." But the call that mattered most came from a manufacturing company across town. They needed a CFO, and they were willing to pay 30% more than my current salary plus equity participation. The CEO had heard about the Pinnacle situation through industry contacts. "We need someone who understands that financial integrity isn't negotiable," he said during the interview. "Someone who's proven they won't compromise when it matters." I gave my notice on a Friday and started the new job the following Monday. Jeanette Murphy was promoted to my old position and became the youngest person ever to receive Pinnacle's Integrity Award. My son graduated college that spring with a degree in computer science and landed his first job at a tech startup in Austin. When he called to tell me about his offer, he mentioned something that made me proud in ways I hadn't expected. "Dad, my new boss asked about your reputation in the industry. Apparently, word gets around about people who do the right thing." Victoria Sterling's fake vendor scheme became a case study in business schools across 3 states. Not exactly the legacy her father had hoped for, but an important lesson about the difference between innovation and fraud. The consulting business grew into something bigger than I'd planned. Other financial professionals started reaching out when they found irregularities and needed advice on how to handle them properly. I'd become the guy people called when they discovered something that didn't add up and weren't sure what to do next. The answer was always the same: document everything, follow the procedures, and never let anyone pressure you to look the other way. The numbers don't lie, even when the people signing the checks do. My ex-wife, Sarah, called last month to congratulate me on the new position. We don't talk often, but she still worries about job security and retirement planning. 3 years after the divorce, she understands that some things are more important than keeping the peace. "I'm proud of you for not taking their money," she said. "I know how tempting it must have been. It had been tempting." 6 months' salary would have covered a lot of sleepless nights. But some prices are too high to pay even when you're 47 and worried about starting over. Look, if you're reading this and you're in a similar situation, here's what I learned. Integrity pays better than corruption, but it takes longer to collect. When someone offers you money to stay quiet about fraud, they're not doing you a favor. They're buying your silence so they can keep stealing. Document everything. Trust your instincts when the numbers don't add up. And remember that every time someone chooses to look the other way, it makes it harder for the next person to do what's right. You're not just fighting for your own career. You're fighting for the principle that experience and integrity matter more than connections and convenience. The world needs people willing to count the receipts, especially when counting them is inconvenient for powerful people. Because in the end, the truth always wins. It just needs someone brave enough to defend it.